Christian Parenting.
Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Thurling. I'm the Executive Director of Christian Parenting, a mom of 3, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a place where you can bring your real self, no matter what that looks like today, and be given the space, resources, and encouragement you need to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parent God made you to be. Hey guys, I have some exciting news for all of you parents. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off all kids products at Christian Parenting. The Christian Parenting store has amazing resources like Noteworthy Kids, Noteworthy Prayers, which are sets of scripture-based cards designed to inspire and encourage your kids. We also have our scripture affirmation cards that offer daily encouragement and positive messages for your little ones. And there are also multiple devotionals written just for kids, packed with engaging activities and scripture readings designed to bring your family closer together and deepen your child's relationship with the Lord. And there's so much more. Christian Parenting has so many resources to support your child's spiritual growth. So head over to cpgive.org to explore the full collection and find the perfect resources for your family. Remember that these offers won't last long, so take advantage of this special sale today. Again, that's cpgive.org for 15% off all kids' products. You guys, I am thrilled to tell you about a new movie that I just saw that is coming out on October 4th called Whitebird. From the world of wonder, which sparked a movement to choose kind, comes the inspirational next chapter, Whitebird. Struggling to fit in at his new school after being expelled for his treatment of Augie Pullman, Julian is visited by his grandmother, who's played by Helen Mirren, and is transformed by the compassionate and heroic story of her attempts to escape Nazi-occupied France during World War II. This movie is about World War II and is PG-13, so there's some heavy content scenes, so use your discretion when it comes to bringing your own younger kids. Maybe even consider a date night. Whitebird is from the director of Finding Neverland and reminds us to be brave and choose kind. It's exclusively in theaters beginning October 4th, so go enjoy it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. If you guys have been around here for a while, you know that I love practical tips on the show. I just really like to leave you guys with something that you can do to help you parent your kids in a way that honors God and that will make your life easier. And today's episode is full of that. I am sitting down with Dr. Kelly Cagle, who is a podcaster, a researcher. She has a PhD in education. She's a parent coach, and we just hit it off and became fast friends. And I think that you're going to really adore her too. Today, we talk about helping our kids become lifelong learners, but we aren't talking about school and grades, and those things are super important, and we do touch on them a little bit. We are talking about getting to know each of our kids and helping them learn the life skills that they need as they grow and learn them without battles. Kelly reminds us that parents are the number one teachers and we play a crucial role in shaping their character and their skills. And when we understand their strengths and weaknesses, we can parent more effectively and build them up as people. Again, we share super practical ideas and tips, and Kelly has a lot of resources, so make sure you catch all those at the end. Enjoy. Hi, Kelly. Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast.
Steph, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We chatted a little bit before we started recording, and I just think we're going to have a great conversation. I feel like we could just talk for a really long time about a lot of different things. So this may be one of many episodes. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do have a lot in common, starting with the 3 kids. So I get you just from that in itself.
I know. And they're about the same age too. So I feel like, yes, same life stage for sure. So let's actually go into that. Tell us about your kids. Tell us about your family and also about you, like what you do and what gets you excited.
Okay, sure will. So my family, I am originally from Brazil. And so if you hear an accent coming out here and there, then know that I was not born in America, but I was really young when we moved here. And I went off to missionary school right after high school. And that's where I met my husband. I do live in Texas. So if you don't hear an accent, then it's the twang from marrying a Texan that will come out in my voice. But we've been together. We were babies when we started dating. I was 17, he was 19. And then we got married soon after that and went to college, did all the things, and then started having kids. We have 3 boys. So I'm a boy mom. Levi is 13. And then I have Titus. In between all of that, we experienced 3 miscarriages. And so there's another unpacking of wounds there to open up, but we won't go there. But that's the age gap, the reason for the age gap. Titus is 8, and then Micah is 6. And they're all super different, but alike in the competition and the smelliness. So those are
Mm.
my 3 boys, and my husband doesn't help the competition there. And then I just go right in with them. So I'm just as competitive.
How are they alike and how are they different
Oh,
besides being
man.
competitive?
Okay, so then we'll tap into the second part of your question about the research that I do. So, with a PhD in education, I spend every day, I tell them my poor kids are my research audience. I observe them every day. Everything that I read, I apply at home. And one of the big theories that I started researching about 5 years ago, and I apply and I teach on all the time, is that there are 8 multiple intelligence theory. And this was a theory by a Harvard psychologist, Howard Gardner, back in 1983, a long time ago. But I was like, oh my gosh, this self-awareness is mind blowing for me to understand and grow in grace towards them. So, what this psychologist was saying is that everyone, before we were measuring IQ, and that's your intelligence, and you're either super smart or you're not, right? You're super dumb. But what this guy started unpacking is that, hey, people are actually gifted in different ways. And I
Mm.
was like, yeah, the word does say that we were created, like we're uniquely, beautifully made, that God created you and I so differently. And so I started unpacking that. And my oldest taps into the physical. And so anything, I won't get into the terminology just because it's really wordy, but anything physical. So when it comes to learning for him, he's got to be moving and he's super active. He's my athlete and he just really is gifted in that. My middle one is my spatial. So anything with building, man, he's a master builder. He recognizes locations. He'd be like 3 years old. He's like, oh, that's grandma's house, kind of could pick up his surroundings really well. Then the baby just doesn't stop talking, and he's my linguistic. And so his gifting is in words, and he will outtalk any of us. So that's kind of giving you a lot with a little applying to our family.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's always so amazing that you can have 3 kids who share the DNA and they've been raised in the same house and the same rules for the most part. And
Mm-hmm.
then they just all turn out so different. It just amazes me all the time the way God just makes us all so unique.
Yeah, totally. Well, then you
Yeah.
got the extroverts and the introverts, and
Yeah.
we homeschool, so we're together all the time. So how do the extroverts make sure that their battery is charged, and how do the introverts make sure that their batteries are charged? And so this whole concept of, man, yeah, they're brothers, and yeah, they kind of look alike, but yeah, they're not alike at all in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to figure out how to parent each one of them individually and collectively, which is
Absolutely.
a whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then you have to use your word or a phrase to describe your family. Is that
Okay.
competitive or do you have another one?
No, I actually have another one. And
Ooh,
I've
okay.
got one word, and that's choosy. We are very
Okay. Tell me more.
choosy. I would love to tell you more. We live in a world that is always tugging for our attention, right? It's always, hey, you need this. And the advertisements, there are a lot of people that spend millions of dollars, a lot of companies trying to flash for our attention. Same thing with any system, whether that's the school system, whether that is a sport system. There are a lot of things that are pulling for your constant attention. And we set out early on. Actually, it was whenever I was starting my PhD program. I already had the 3 kids, and my baby was a 5-month-old nursing baby who hated sleep. And so back then I was like, man, we've got to be super choosy about our yeses and our nos. And our boundaries started going really well. And we started to simplify a lot of things. So whether that's with purchases, we like to be super choosy. Whether that's with our yeses, we like to be super choosy. Because then if we say yes to something, we're committed. We're all in, you know? And so I believe that that would be the best word to describe us is we're choosy. We're a choosy group.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a really interesting word. And I kind of want to point out because I love this word for you, but I love that like you're talking about making your best yes, because I don't want anyone to think that you're saying we just say no to basically anything that takes us away from like family time and we homeschool and we're like our own little bubble. Cause like,
Mm-mm.
I mean, your son's in some intense sports, but
Yeah.
like that's the yes that you chose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, sure will. So as you mentioned, my son, my oldest, Levi, the one that's the physical, the very gifted physically, we started early on. Actually, we waited. Again, we were choosy and decided to wait until he was 7. Back when I was a teacher, I was also a coach, and I saw a lot of the athletes and kind of, again, interviewer. I wasn't a researcher yet, but I would always talk to them about their life story, how they went about. In fact, I have one old student who's playing professional football right now in the NFL. And then I've got a previous athlete. So he was just a student. Then a previous soccer player who played in Europe for 3 years. And now she's back home here in Texas playing again, just professional sports. And so I had the privilege of teaching very gifted kids. And so I observed them from the perspective of how did your parents do this with you when you were little? So we chose to wait until my son Levi was 7, a little more coordinated, understood more just developmentally how to handle rules. We weren't just filling up our weekends and evenings with soccer practice or all these things and for them to be blowing and chasing dandelions or butterflies, whatever was blowing in the air. We were choosy and decided to wait until we felt like he was ready. We started playing soccer and then it just kind of all snowballed from there. And a lot of coaches were coming and asking for him to play, which we kind of knew that that would happen. We had heard from other friends who had kids that played sports competitively warn us, hey, people are going to come swarm you. They're going to ask for you. So just decide what you want. But we didn't chase anything. He has been just kind of found, and we are committed. And as you mentioned, we drive an hour to an hour and a half one way to get him to soccer practice every single day. And he actually trains Monday through Friday, every day of the week. It's really a part-time job. And then on Saturday, he has a game or a scrimmage or some training that he's doing. So 6 days a week, is eaten up by, his commitments. And so again, we decided to homeschool because we needed flexibility and we felt like that was an open door that we didn't seek, that just kind of happened. And so again, we chose that yes, and that means saying no to a lot of other things, but it gives us a peace of mind knowing that we are happy and we are pursuing something that partnering with his dream and what we feel like the Lord's opening doors for him for.
Yeah, I just think that's really cool because everyone's yes can look so different. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we just get a little hung up on what yes is supposed to look like, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh, we have to say no to all the activities and more yes to, these things instead. So I think you guys are just doing a really good job balancing it all and saying no to what you need to.
I don't know about good job. Some days it feels like I'm not doing a great job, but that is actually part of the work that I'm setting out to do. I'm a motherhood coach, so I'm coming alongside moms to also say, hey, you know what? You can decide what gets your yes. You can choose your purchases. You can have more of a nice rhythm, refreshing, sweet rhythm in the home, because every day of your life is a day that you don't get back. I mean, I know it's super cliche, but when you really unpack that, it's like, oh man, did I just waste my whole day? And then tomorrow my kid is older, one day older. What did I do yesterday that made a difference in their lives? And so it's We live in America. It's really busy, really loud. The world is really loud, tugging for all of our attention. So, how can we live intentionally in this world of loudness and busyness and flashing lights all the time?
Yeah. And that's hard. It's a choice you have to make every single day, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you already answered this, but maybe you want to add something too, because we have to go to my other question that I ask all of my guests, which
Okay.
is, what is one thing you want every parent to know?
Okay. So, one thing I want every parent to know is that you are your child's number one teacher.
Mm,
So, a lot of times you rely on a classroom teacher or a youth pastor or the kids pastor or grandma or all of the anybody else to teach some lessons, but ultimately we are the ones. I don't care if you homeschool or not. This is not what that's about. But we are teaching our kids resilience with our
that's
choices.
right.
We are teaching our kids how to have grit. We are teaching them conflict resolution when we argue in front of them. What does that look like in a healthy biblical way that they will encounter, whether in their line of work or with their future spouse or with a sibling or with a child? What is conflict, healthy conflict resolution, collaboration? We're teaching them to fill up the gas tank. We are teaching them to scramble eggs, balance a checkbook. All of those things are things that make up a whole person. And
Mm,
no one else should fill that role but you as the parent. So I think that you having this mentality of, man, I'm their number one teacher, but I also, my saying this is, I have a podcast as well. And what I call my audience is we are lifelong learners. Because you know
mm-hmm.
what? I am learning from my kids just as much as I'm teaching my kids. And I'm leading by example more than I am teaching them through books or my sermons. They're watching my every move, my every yes, my every, you know. And so when you have that perspective of I'm a lifelong learner, I'm always learning, and my kids are being trickled into from what I'm allowing to come in and come out of me because I am their number one teacher.
Yeah. I love that you're so passionate about helping parents and kids become lifelong learners. I think that's just so important because it translates to so many things beyond school and grades. I think we think about, oh, a lifetime learner. There's someone who's always reading and now is maybe going to get more degrees or whatever. But really, a lifelong learner translates to practicing sports, conflict
Mm-hmm.
resolution, like you said, thinking critically, like doing chores and learning how to do chores or
Yep.
things around the house, and a lot of things that are just essential to being human. And we definitely are our kids' first teachers when it comes to that. But there's more too. So tell us a little bit, because you kind of have like mentioned that there's like a little learning epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think that parents are the solution? Why are we the first teachers for our kids?
Because to me, again, I think COVID opened up a whole can of worms that we parents were kind of like, oh my gosh, this is more than just sending them off to school. Again, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if it's a public school, private school, charter school, homeschool. It doesn't matter what kind of schooling. I think that parents were awakened to a new sense of, wow, now I'm sending my kids back, whether if we did a good job or the school did a good job, if they were able to transition well, because that's a lot of what my research during that time. I was actually finishing up my PhD, so my dissertation, all of the research was really heavy during COVID. And what I started realizing is that students who were in traditional classroom environments didn't know, they were so dependent on teachers that when they were sent
Mm.
home, they were like, what do I do? My teacher's not here to hold my hand. I don't know how to do this. I need my teacher. On the flip side, parents were, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. The teacher, and then the teachers were like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to transition to this? I don't have my kids right here with me. You know what I mean? So every nugget of this equation kind of burst and was just shook during that time.
Yeah.
And so the outcome of that has been kids have either really picked up the slack and kind of like learned time management and figured out that the learning's on me, it's my responsibility. Same thing with parents. A lot of parents have decided to homeschool. In fact, since 2017, which I know that's a little before COVID, but the homeschooling number has grown by 51%. And I mean, that's a short period. That's not even a decade for the number to have nearly doubled. And I do believe that it's been the trickle effect of COVID. And if you look at testing scores, they're still lower, and we are feeling it academically. We are really, really feeling the deficiency that took place during that season. And so that's why I think that teachers are trying their very hardest. Most teachers, are really pouring their heart and soul and creativity and all of their energy towards helping our kids come out on top. But at the same time, parents, you can do what I just mentioned a few minutes ago. You can tap into your child's creativity, and it doesn't take the screens, and it doesn't take technology. It's not about just shoving things in their face to distract them. It's that intentionality of, hey, you know what? You're 12. Let me step out of the car with me real quick. Let me show you how to fill up this gas tank. Then we start teaching and unpacking gas prices. We can teach credit cards and how that works, and interest rates, and how to, money management, even just that. How much do you make a week that pays for this gas? I mean, like, there's so many lessons in that one little moment that can take place. And so again, this epidemic that academically has happened, we can fill in the void in the everyday, not just through textbooks, through life.
Yeah, right. Which is the best teacher, right? Besides parents and life experiences. So let's break it down by age a little bit. Because as you say that, like, what can parents be doing at home? Like that example you just gave with pumping gas. Like, what can parents be doing at home with their like little kids to help them be lifelong learners and to fill in this gap a little bit? Like little, like preschool, early elementary, little babies.
Amazing place to start. Super low risk. I always try to put it this way. When you think about the risk of activities, then it can put it into perspective. So low risk, put up your clothes. What if their closet is a disaster? That is low risk. Like, if they can't find a shirt, oh my gosh, is the world really over? It's not.
Well, if you're my daughter, yes.
Well, but then okay, then you can go in and use that moment and say, hey, you know what? I know how much you love this shirt. Where can we put it so you can find it next time?
Yes.
Then you just taught her responsibility, right? This is your shirt, baby girl, not mine. It doesn't fit mommy. And I don't love it like you do. If it's important and special to you, take care of it. Put it where you're going to find it next time, And so about once a quarter, I go in and I kind of reorganize my kid's closet. But my little one, my yapper, who doesn't stop talking, he's been putting up his clothes since he was 2, because he's got the older brothers who are also doing the chores. And so, I mean, his motor skills were not there yet to use the hanger, but, the shirts would be all crooked. But at the same time, he was doing it. And now he's mastered it. He's 6. His closet looks way better than it did 2 years ago. But it's because he's mastering that skill. And I tell them, and before, when we first started it years ago, they would complain, oh, now it's like, okay, guys, put up your clothes, please. They all just line up like little ducks, get their clothes and go up, And so I think that's super low risk for a preschooler.
We all want our kids to be and feel successful in school. And whether they struggle with a specific subject, need help with homework, or are just not feeling challenged enough in class, they may benefit from an online learning program. IXL Learning is an online learning program for kids. It covers math, language arts, science, and social studies. IXL is designed to help kids really understand and master topics in a fun way with positive feedback. From pre-K to 12th grade, one site gets you everything you need, and IXL customizes learning for each child and their needs. I have personally used IXL for multiple years with all 3 of my kids in various capacities. We've used it in partnership with their school and during our homeschool season. And currently, my kids will use it as practice before a test. So seeing their work helps us both feel confident that they're prepared and know the material. So if your child is struggling or if they need an extra challenge, this is the smartest investment you can make. A single hour of tutoring costs more than a month of IXL. And 1 in 4 students in the US are learning with IXL, and IXL is used in 95 of the top 100 school districts in the US. So don't miss out on this program. You can make an impact on your child's learning and get IXL now. Christian Parenting Podcast listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/today. So you can visit IXL.com/today to get the most effective learning program out there at the very best price. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I remember, so my middle son, he does karate. And when he started years ago, their teacher, he gave him his uniform, and he, like, in order to receive his uniform, it was, whose uniform is this? And he was like, mine. And they're like, okay, Griffin, this is your uniform. Who's going to take care of it? He was like, my mom. They were like, no. Who's going to put it away so you can find it? And he was like, oh, me. Like, who's going to wash it? He was like, me. Like, they made him go through, like, whose uniform is this? And that was part of the experience of receiving the uniform. And we've translated that a lot to life whenever our kids have something like that. We're like, whose is this? It's not mine.
Yeah.
And obviously we help with things because we are parents. But to your point, like, there are some things that are low risk that they can take on, like clothes.
Absolutely.
That's easy.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about the, like, middles? Like, a little older.
Middle school, I love, again, the low risk is, especially if you have a shyer child who maybe doesn't like to speak to adults or speak up for themselves. This is a really great one, is ordering food at a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
So again, super low risk. Yeah. You can have the conversation before the waitress or waiter comes. And you can say, okay, well, what sounds good to you today? Again, you're building autonomy because you're giving them the choice. It's your body, it's your food. Like, a lot of times I will remove what I don't want them to have as an option. Like, okay, you can have X, Y, or Z. What would you like? Give them a choice because you're putting that on them. And then once they decide, it's like, okay, so when the waiter comes, prepare them. When the waiter comes, you can place your order. And at first they're going to be like, but then the more they do it, they will grow in confidence and comfortability to talk, for themselves, speak up for themselves.
Yeah.
Again, super low risk. You're right there. You can intervene if you need to. If they ask a question, you're right there. But that's a great way.
Yeah. And that's teaching the responsibility that they need, again, through their life, because they're going to have to talk to people all the time. One thing that I've started doing with my 2 younger, I didn't do this with my oldest, but I have now seen where I'm like, oh, these middle school kids and high school kids, they don't have the best phone skills.
Yeah.
Because we don't have landlines anymore. Like, when we were growing up, if we wanted to play with a friend, we had to get on our landline and call their landline and talk to whoever was on the phone, whoever picked it up, right?
Right.
So I've made my kids start calling for people that I have their number and it's like an easy call, like their best friends. I make them call their parents to plan their own play date or send them a text or whatever, just for that practice on the phone.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
It's
great
worked
idea.
well. Sometimes they take my phone and they do it and I don't know. And then someone will be like, oh, Harriet left me a voicemail.
Oh, cool. I had no idea.
Oh, what are you guys planning?
Yeah.
But that's what we
awesome.
did. All those little things are important for them to learn. It's just, you got to get a little creative because it's not the same as when we were growing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about the older kids? Like, how are we going to get them to keep building upon the life skills?
I love when they get involved with the cooking and the cleaning, especially their room. Because if you think about the teen years, we're starting to kind of gear them up to go off to college or to move out, to do something else, right? Kind of spread their wings and fly. And I know that season is a time that they're moody and a lot of hormones pumping through their bodies constantly. And they're going to talk back. Well, again, it all depends on what you allow, right? With the talk back. So set your rules, decide what's appropriate for your house. But it's important for you to cast the vision of, hey, I'm preparing you for adulthood. I've got, in my case, my oldest is 13. I've got 5 years, Levi, that you could essentially move out. I know it already, it's
I
crazy.
know.
I've
My son loves
cried
to
about
remind
it.
me.
Yeah, I've cried about it. It's insanity, but it's the reality of it.
Yeah.
I got married when I was 19. So in
Mhm.
6 years, that would be Levi. My gosh, Levi married, and
Yeah.
I don't want his house looking like a tornado because his nature, like what I brought up in the beginning, that he's really physical, but
Mhm.
his weakness is in that spatial awareness. And so he doesn't pay attention to where he leaves his stuff. And I mean, he is a tornado. He walks in the door and he's been there. You ask him to unload the dishwasher and every cabinet door is open and he's left. Like he's done. Dishwasher's
Yeah.
closed. He's done, but it's not done, and so how can I prepare him with, hey, here's the oven. Let's safely, when you're supervising, here's how you can make chicken nuggets. Here's how, eggs and bake a cake or whatever it is in the kitchen, but also cleaning up. Those are important skills that you can teach your teenagers.
Yeah. I like how you're kind of pointing out for each of your individual kids too, and reminding us how important it is to know your kids and
Mm,
how they learn and what they're talented at. Because I mean, what I'm hearing is, okay, so Levi might be really a great athlete. And so that might mean he's just naturally motivated to work hard and to practice those things and to get out and do it. You like give him some workout he needs to do, he's going to go do it. But he cannot unload a dishwasher
right.
without leaving a mess. And so he might not have to learn the motivation, but he has
Hmm.
to learn how to do some of those chores and to keep his life organized. And your
Right.
other kids are probably different,
Hmm.
but that's why it's
Absolutely.
important to know them each individually, which is,
Well, and that's what I
shown.
mentioned in the beginning about
Yeah,
when I tapped into that theoretical framework, that I was like,
right.
oh my gosh, this is really eye opening, because I started seeing my kids' strengths and I was really happy when I recognized their strengths. But the things that once
Mm-hmm.
frustrated me about my kids, like, well, why doesn't Titus do this or this or this? Why doesn't Micah ever stop talking? He keeps interrupting, whatever it is. I started having more grace towards each of them and their weaknesses, and actually
Mm-hmm.
working towards strengthening their weaknesses. If you saw, I have friends that comment on, so my middle one is my quieter one, and he's sandwiched by two really loud, bubbly extroverts who never meet a stranger and love being around people. And Titus loves it too, but man, does he need that reset afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a kid who didn't want to talk to anyone. That when people would greet him, he would kind of like be awkward and like have this random like, or this really awkward like eye contact. But my friends have now said, "Oh my gosh, Titus comes to me now and starts a conversation with me as the adult."
Mm-hmm.
And so again, that was a weakness of his interpersonal skills, although he understood people, but to interact with them because of his introversion, we kind of have just stewarded that and taken care of that and watered it. So instead of it frustrating us, like, hey, don't be rude, say hi, we can say, hey, you know what? And practice in safe environments that then transform and build them up their competence, and then they're
Yeah,
confident whenever they go out because we've practiced it. And so even their
right.
weaknesses, you can strengthen and focus on them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so how do you have any resources or somewhere that you can point us if we're like, well, I want to like learn my kids' strengths and weaknesses in this way so that I can focus on teaching them what they need to learn?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have quite a few things. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Kelly Cagle. And there is the link tree that will send you to my website, which is again, drkellycagle.com. It's really simple, but I have tons of resources there. And one of them in particular, talking about this understanding your child, is called a back to school workshop. It's actually a live workshop that I did with kids. So it's very kid friendly language. If you want to even watch it with your kids, the application is super great, really applicable. And it's an hour and a half. And so you download the workbook with it, and it goes through this theory and it goes through understanding it, tapping into study skills even further, not just understanding your kid, but also helping them as lifelong learners, and particularly academically in this instant. Because if you think about it, you don't only go back to school in August. Every Monday, a kid is going back to school. Right?
Totally.
And so that reset, sometimes it takes the transition, but how can we really just come alongside them and support them in our homes? And so that is one resource that's super helpful. But then I also have a podcast where I release weekly episodes. It's called Parenting IQ Podcast. And that's where I'm coming alongside parents with my lifelong learners and helping them see every little moment as learning opportunities. So again, I unpack a bunch of research or things that are challenging me, my thinking that I've applied, that have been aha moments in my life, but also with guests. And so a lot of professionals, different conversations that we would encounter in parenting.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to link all that stuff in show notes so that people can find it really easily.
Okay,
So
great.
go there if you guys are interested, because we'll have it all linked. But can you, before we go, and I know this could probably be like a whole nother conversation, so we'll have to keep it short, but
Okay.
could you give us a little encouragement for the mom who's listening, who's like, oh, that sounds great, but we're just stacking more. So now I have to go learn about my kids, and I have to go teach them things, and I am already drowning and I don't have it all together. Like, give us a little encouragement for the mom who wants to just help their kids be lifelong learners without burning themselves out.
Yeah, great question. I love it. Be choosy. Decide exactly in that season, which seasons come and go. And so what I mean by that season could be right now, going back to school. So for the next 1 month or 2 months is a current little season that I'm taking care of my child in this way. And I'm not going to focus on other things, right? So if you go through a season where there's a heartbreak, meet them in that season. Be choosy to really focus and date your child in that little season to meet them right there. Same thing if it's sports and disappointment and whatever season you're in. Just turned 13, helping them feel like, hey, this is a big deal. Let's learn about your body. Let's learn about what's happening, which hopefully you've done that a little sooner. But you know what I mean? What season are you in? That is your child in? Is your family in? Is your marriage in? And be choosy and let go of anything else. Again, with my coaching, this is what I do with moms is we simplify. This isn't about doing more. It's not about more and doing it all. It's about what really matters right now. What do I need to choose? What needs my yes right now? And do that and do it really well.
Yeah, that's good. And seasons can be short and seasons can be
Yep.
long. So that's good. That's great encouragement. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all the research you do, everything you do for parents. I'm just very grateful and grateful for your time. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, Steph. I appreciate it. I knew we would hit it off. So this is great. Hope it's beneficial.
I know, this was fun. We'll do it again, for sure.
Hey, you know where to find me.
I do. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys so much for listening this week. I have links to find Kelly and her podcast and resources and show notes. So go check them out because I think that you're going to find them to be really valuable. I love her encouragement at the end to be choosy, really her encouragement throughout the entire podcast to be choosy and focus on the season that you are in. That is so important, but can be easily forgotten as we get busy and overwhelmed. But it's just a really good reminder for us as parents Thank you again for being here. May God bless you this week, and may you be filled with the Holy Spirit and show Jesus' love and light to everyone you interact with this week, including your kids. And may you feel confident, equipped, and held by the Lord as you shepherd them and help them grow into lifelong learners. Thank you so much for listening to the Christian Parenting Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you love this podcast, would you please consider leaving a review and sharing it with a friend? This is the best way to reach more people and encourage even more parents. Christian Parenting is a donor-funded ministry, and we rely on friends like you to keep podcasts like this going. So to find out more about Christian parenting and to make a donation, head over to christianparenting.org or at christianparenting_org on Instagram. Thank you again. See you next week.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? It's hard to make time for the things that keep you healthy, but being consistent with self-care is like working a muscle. And when life gets crazy, that muscle keeps you strong. Therapy is the ultimate self-care, and BetterHelp makes it easy to get started with affordable online sessions you can do from anywhere. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp, HELP.com today to get 10% off your first month.